Well, it's time for India to show their wares again, this time in Abu Dhabi. The evening match as part of this doubleheader, the first part being New Zealand taking on Scotland. And despite a spirited effort, we will, of course, update you on the result of that. Looking like it's going not the way Indian fans would have liked, but India need to do what's in their hands. Play against Afghanistan, play well, and win that game. This is match number 33 from group number 2. It's an evening fixture from Abu Dhabi. Afghanistan have played some aggressive cricket, and India, it's about time that they can bring to the table all the potential that we know they have as world beaters. Here we are to look ahead to that game on Cricbuzz Live. I'm joined by Joy Bhattacharya and Dinesh Karthik, looking absolutely resplendent in a setting that, well, could even have been a good setting for Halloween, DK.
We had a tough Halloween, Gotham. Let's not be reminded of that. But it feels good to be back, and this is a good game, crucial game in many ways for India and Afghanistan. Both have a lot going for them this game. So let's all, I can see obviously all the excitement all over. Diwali around the corner. So what better way to kickstart the proceedings?
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, even from afar, Joy, the Diwali lights are on everywhere. Everyone's gathering, just putting the festivities aside to keep an eye on what's going to happen. Because let's not forget, it's not an associate nation. This is an Afghanistan who have come a long way, who will not be saying, we're here to prevent India beating us by a big margin. We're here to win. That's the only thing.
Yeah. They were here to win with the numbers, and they gave Pakistan a nasty surprise. It required, some really special hitting in that 19th over to get them across the line. So, look, this is not a team that, that you pen in the result before and you only discuss the margin. This is a very different side. They have two very dangerous bowlers. They have a few other excellent all-rounders. They have some hard hitting up front. Uh, do they match up to India perfectly? No, they don't. But on a good day for them and a bad day for us, things could be very, very different.
Well, I can tell you one of the reasons why we may have a bit of a lounge feel to Dinesh Karthik's background is because he is also, along with being part of the analysis on Cricbuzz Live, going to be on this very special show. Look at the colors there. Joy's been there. He's been part of the action match party. It's a must win. India versus Afghanistan. Lots of fun. But of course, it's all about viewing with like minded folks. And all of you can be part of Cricbuzz Plus and join Match Party. So, as I said, Dinesh Karthik's going to be there. So, look out for him in this slightly new avatar. But, DK, as Joy said, it's maybe a few years ago you would have said, look, it's wonderful. The story is so great. Let's welcome Afghanistan to the fold. Let's help them out. And India have been wonderful to let them play in various venues across India. But now it's time to tell them we are the ones who are the big daddies.
That's a nice way to put it. I think definitely Afghanistan is no team that you can rock up on a certain day, play some mediocre cricket and roll over. I think you need to come with a certain amount of, focus, a lot of concentration, because they have some world class match winners there. Let's take right from the outset, the biggest name going around for some time, Rashid Khan. He's been, the standout performer for Sunrisers over a period of time. And for another variety of players who've done well in other leagues. So, Afghanistan in many ways have produced more cricketers than say a Sri Lanka or Bangladesh have, especially for other franchises. Goes to show that that cricket is in a very healthy place, and definitely not a team that you can rock up and say, oh, hello, we're going to thrash you today. No chance. I think you need to be ready for a good game of cricket. They have a certain pattern and they play it that way every time they walk onto a field. They have a lot of pride for the way they play. I mean, with their name Afghanistan attached to it.
Now, a bit of a dilemma for India, Joy, is going to be that it's not just a game where they're looking to get the 2 points on the board. Of course, that's paramount importance. Number one, don't look anywhere else, get the 2 points. But because of the situation they've put themselves in after New Zealand, after Pakistan, it's a little bit of net run rate that will also come into play, because Afghanistan could be the other team and will be the other team if they're level on 6 points at one stage.
Yeah, look, this dilemma is going to hit them very hard, and it's something that they need to think about. The problem with the Indian batsmen was that they were under so much pressure, thanks to the way this tournament has been scheduled. They were under so much pressure that they came into a situation where they just, they looked tight. They looked as if they had knots in their belly, and they just couldn't break free. And then Just you, the first shot you try, you get out. If that ball goes for a six, maybe you free yourself, but they just didn't free themselves, and it happens. So the problem is, I think India first will say, let me make this match safe, and then they will think about run rate. But I think to first start off and say that I'm going to do this by run rate and all that. First, let me. What do I do if I win the toss? I think India will want to chase if they win the toss definitely, and then start putting the other things into place. If they have to bat first, what's the total that they want to bat? They'll be having lots of discussions about it because it's something that they will decide up front. Maybe have a look at the pitch. They've now seen this pitch play, but I don't think you are going to get into run rate decisions until at least you've got into the match in some substantial way.
Well, interesting, DK. On the preview, we were suggesting that they could maybe save 5 minutes of the entire day's proceedings and not have the toss at all, because at least in terms of what the two sides like to do, it's a virtually redundant toss. But is there scope for an Afghanistan to maybe play some mind games and say, look, we love to bat first, but we know India love to chase even more than that. So could there possibly be a situation they win the toss and say, okay, go ahead, bat first, we'll see what happens?
I would not think so, because I think they will want to win a game of cricket. And how do they win a game of cricket? By batting first, scoring close to 130, 140, 150. That's about what they're looking to score. And then try and, strangle the opponent by bowling spin through the middle and some quality spinners through the middle. And then they have some decent bowlers at the death. They will be not thinking, how am I going to make it tough for India? They'll be thinking, what do I need to do to win this game? And I think their template has constantly been batting first. And I would like to think they would back that even more and make sure that they do what they do very well. That's what I would like to think.
Yeah, fair point. And I wouldn't even suggest that India would try and do the reverse. So, as I said, this is what we're expecting. We'll know the result of the toss in a couple of minutes and we'll see if it goes according to plan. But the scheduling, Joy, it's just one of those things we've looked at. In an ideal world, in a utopian world, you would have wanted India maybe to come out and play one of the associate games early on and then build your way up to the big Pakistan clash and maybe play New Zealand right at the end, possibly on the 8th of November.
Absolutely. I mean, to say this, for viewers who don't know how much of this is, how it's normally done, always, if you see any World Cup for the last, 2 decades, not 1.5 decades at least, India and Pakistan will always be in the same group. Why? Because then you ensure an India-Pakistan match, which is the highest rated match. That means you're going to get a really, really high rated match early. So that's one thing that they always ensure. India or Pakistan in the same group. And don't just blame cricket for it. Hockey does the same thing. Everyone tries and does the same thing. So you get an India-Pakistan match up front. Then what you try and do normally is put matches, as many India matches as possible around weekends, which is why the last match you had on a Sunday. Now you're going to have a cluster of matches around Diwali because, this is not the weekend, it's the night before Diwali. Then, the day after Diwali again is a weekend. So try and make them play a cluster of matches around festive season for India. So that anyway means that you end up with that 7-day break, which I'm not even going to debate. Karthik will be in a much better position to tell you whether it's good or bad for India. But where I think they should have thought a little bit more about it is the moment you put New Zealand out there, you're in a situation where you're saying that if they lose that second match, then a lot of India will just turn off the television sets because they think that, India's not going to qualify. Or a substantial portion will say the chances have much, much reduced. If you put that second associate game there, whether it's Scotland or whether it's the other game, you had a far better chance, Namibia, you had a far better chance of having a situation where you're easing into the tournament. Here, by risking those two matches up front, you want good ratings up front, but you're risking the fact that India could be 0-2 down, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that people sitting across tables in broadcast offices, in the official, the ICC and everything. But DK, from a player's perspective, do you react immediately to when you see schedules, or do you tell yourself, look, it doesn't matter who we play when, we've got to beat them whenever we play them?
Look, I think from an Indian team point of view, knowing them, yes, they'll be pretty disappointed with the scheduling, but they know that they are the money churners in world cricket. The world, 90% of the viewing population of cricket, the fans, the spectators, are all from India, or rather support India. So a lot of it will be based around them. It's like a Roger Federer playing, Grand Slam, or, it's very obvious once that big guy comes, he gets the center court, he gets the main court to play, main court to practice. That's how it's gone. And here, in many ways, obviously, a lot of TV audience is around India, and that is why. From an Indian team point of view, obviously, a week's break. Look, I don't think anybody expected a tournament to unfold the way it has unfolded, but bad luck, it has happened this way. But obviously, you can't fault the ICC. They had done all of this hoping to get the best TV results. The one match I would have liked to have seen swapped would have been, the Namibia and the New Zealand match. If they'd kept the New Zealand match last and the Namibia match on the day of New Zealand, in an ideal world, they expected Bangladesh to qualify when Namibia did, and obviously the other way around. So if that had happened, that would have been nicer. So that would have made things a lot more simpler for various other reasons. It would have been an India-Pakistan, India-Bangladesh, followed by an Afghanistan, Scotland, and then a New Zealand. That would have been the ideal way to. I feel that would have been the ideal way to schedule it. But bad luck, things things as is obviously not great. It put absolutely right what Joy said. It put tremendous amount of pressure, and I think there's something interesting brewing up. I think Gautam, it's time for you to speak again.
Yes, as I said, we talked about the mind games. It's not been the redundant toss. We thought it would be. Afghanistan have won the toss, and they've said, we won't do what we normally do. Surprise, surprise. India, please come and bat first. We are going to chase. Now, whether or not they're wanting to go away from their comfort zone because it could be due, whether it's mind games, whether it's strategy, tactics, we cannot read into their minds. But I think one of the reasons that we've heard at the toss is that Joy Mohammad Nabi has said there is lots of dew around. And I think fair enough from that point of view to change your own game plan to make sure you don't bowl with a wet ball in that second innings makes sense.
Makes sense. I'm just thinking about, Indian spinners as well. I mean, if you have that situation, I mean, for Varun Chakravarti also to grip the ball is going to be equally difficult as it is going to be for Ravindra Jadeja. So lots of stuff out there. But interestingly, I think Mujib is also still not fit. That also will make a difference, which means I'll be very, very interested in seeing how they now bowl Rashid. Do they still hold him back? Because see, otherwise they'd always bowl Mujib up front and then bring Rashid in for that, overs 7 to 14. Now you're in a situation where Rashid is not bowling the top 6. Do you say that this Indian team is looking a bit vulnerable, and I'm going to give them my best bowler up front and take at least one over there up front and see where things go? If you gets a wicket, give him another one. Do they try and do that as well? Because see, it is a do or die match for India, definitely, but it's also a do or die match for them. And with Mujib not being there is a huge blow.
Certainly is. Virat Kohli unequivocal that he would have bowled first as well. They said we're going to brush off all the not very good cricket we've played till now and look ahead to this game. So first blow in terms of the toss going to Afghanistan, but India will just have to go out there and sort of shake everything off DK and just put the runs on the board. Not think of the due at this stage.
Oh, look, I think by now they're used to it, isn't it? Losing tosses must have become a habit. I feel bad in many ways for Virat Kohli. He's just going through this terrible rut of form with the toss. I've been seeing it for some time now. Against Joe Root in the Test series, he had lost all 5 tosses the previous series. This series, he won 1 and lost 3. So toss is definitely not Virat Kohli's strength over a period of time. Poor guy has found ways to lose the toss a lot, and I think that must frustrate him to a point where he's thinking he's done with these tosses from now onwards. I think, in many ways by now they're used to seeing Virat lose the toss and obviously bat first. So again, here is another opportunity which presents itself. I think India is in a little bit of a trouble for having batting first, I must admit. And I say that because yesterday, having seen how Pakistan played in Abu Dhabi, it's not an easy wicket to bat on. It's a very, very, in many ways, it is very slow at the start. It's keeping low. And if they're using the same wicket, it'll be very interesting to see how Indian batters shape up. What this has done is India can still definitely go on to win the match, which we will. But what I feel is it'll be a bit of a struggle to get that big run rate difference that we're looking at. That could be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, no matter what Virat Kohli does with bat in hand, he's not a great tosser. It's just one of those things. He's just never had it in him. He's even admitted at times. He has smiles on his face when he walks out and says, did I really win a toss? There was one time, I'm not sure which game it was, where he was actually walking away and he was told, no, you won the toss. And he acted all surprised about that. But from a point of view of the Indian team, 2 very important changes. Varun Chakravarti has a bit of a niggle, we are told, and in comes Ravichandran Ashwin. We wanted some sort of a spinner in there, and that's the role going to be played by Ashwin. And Sky, Surya Kumar Yadav, comes back into the side for Ishan Kishan Joy. And I think the philosophy there is, yes, we brought you in, but you were brought in as a one-match replacement. If Sky is fit, he was the first choice in the first place.
Look, I have no problem with that. If Skies, if your first 11 was, that's what you decided your first 11 was before you started the tournament, you went that way. It was interesting the way the last time they, as I said, they put Rohit in at number 3, whether it's vulnerability to that Trent Bolt bringing the ball back or whatever. My whole point only there is, we were discussing it yesterday, that the only question there is not whether he's vulnerable or not vulnerable. Rohit is a great, great batsman. Every batsman has weaknesses. He's one of your best batsmen. He's a great opening batsman. The only question is, if you ever take a decision like that, it has to be as much Rohit's decision as the team's decision. If Rohit does not buy into it, you do not move a player like that. So one thing for sure, with Sky back, we are going to go back to our normal batting. That's going to be Rahul and Rohit that will open. And I think that's something, it's an aberration that we just need to put behind us, because unless Rohit himself said, let's try Ishan there, and because he's also a senior member of the team, perhaps it's not the greatest of ideas. I mean, I'd be interested in what Karthik has to say about that.
Look, I think it has just gone one way, where they feel that the only way to get the best out of Ishan is, playing him at opening. But I still completely believe that Rohit is arguably one of the best openers in the world, and you don't stop an opener from opening. It's as simple as that. Both these boys, Rahul and Rohit, have been fabulous for India over a period of time, especially in this format, and you give them the best chance of succeeding. If obviously sometimes you don't send Rohit, it sends a signal as if, obviously you're wary about the fact that the opponent bowlers could be a good matchup. When you have the best player in the world, I think you just expect him to go out there and impose himself upon them. But in many ways, obviously, it's hindsight and it's done with. And I think this game, we're back to the usual opening pair, and we can expect some good fireworks. A couple of, straightforward changes, I guess. Ashwin for Varun, because he has a niggle. I hope it is a small niggle. And Surya Kumar Yadav in for Ishan Kishan. And I think that's a fair couple of changes for the players who have obviously moved out.
Yeah, well, that is an interesting comment from Mahela Jayawardena, saying that you don't really want to tinker with your top 3. And I think that's a message reacted to, with 3 players essentially playing out of position in the Indian team. That is probably the reason he was reacting to it. Have a look at the reshuffling of the top order in recent times. And that's what you want to have as a settled pairing as such, or not just pairing, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I feel they've moved this around too much. And, I'm not going to talk about the England games, because if you think about it, the England games were actually a long, long time back. I mean, if you look at it in terms of time, after that, we've had the IPL tournament, obviously, where different situations are there. But at least in this tournament, and it's very interesting, because remember, Virat made the statement up front that he wanted to open. He made a very clear situation that saying that, I want to open, which is why he was also opening for RCB in the tournament, because he felt that it'll give him practice at the top spot. And now that he's not opening, I mean, he moving back, because it obviously makes sense to Rohit and Rahul. And then Ishan coming in, it's just, I think it's again like a little bit like, I'm sorry to say, that whole number 4 thing in the 2019 World Cup, where it's just a mess. Nobody wants to do something wrong. Everyone's wanting to do the right thing, but you end up sort of making a bit of a, as a good North Indian would say, a bit of a khichdi with it. You've tried too many combinations, too many times you've changed, and now nobody feels secure about their position. And if you see, the one thing that Pakistan has done well in this tournament is that they've stuck to the same team. This is the same situation. Again, luck is also a factor. No injuries, same team. They've won matches. When you win matches, confidence also comes. So, sometimes the cards just fall. And I don't feel that there's been our selectors have been as they've tried their best to make the best decisions possible for the team. It's just, sometimes it doesn't work out.
DK, you've played at different positions in the batting order, but essentially when you get down to 4, 5, 6, 7, you can sort of put yourself as almost a floater, have your pads on and say, depending on the situation, I'll come in. But when it comes to 1, 2, 3, 4, how important is it for them to be settled?
In T20, number 4 also can be a floater, because, you never know when the wickets, like Joy said, you don't know how the cards are going to fall in many ways. So it's okay. You just go with the situation, the flow. But 1, 2, 3, in most cases, more often than not, if you have it pretty set, like let's take Mumbai Indians for an example. For the longest time, they had the same 1, 2, 3. They had openers, Quinton de Kock, Rohit Sharma at 3, Surya Kumar. Now that didn't change at all. If you take this year for CSK, it was the same. I mean, it was, let's take the second half. They had Faf du Plessis, Rituraj Gaikwad, and at number 3, it was Robin Uthappa. At the back end, at the start, it was Moeen Ali. They gave him a fair run before deciding, okay, let's change. But it wasn't like Rohit, Robin one game, Moeen one game, Robin one game, Moeen one game. It wasn't like that. They kept it fairly simple. KKR, for that matter, Venkatesh Iyer, Shubman Gill, Rahul Tripathi. That didn't change at all. That was consistent. So up to number 3, you're pretty fixed with your mindset. Okay, either you go in at the fall of a quick wicket, or you go in at a stage when you need to just push the run rate. Either of these two, you're not expecting anything else. So it's a set mindset. Whereas obviously 4 is somebody which is very flexible. It could be 20 for 2, then you need to obviously take rearguard action, or it could be 130 for 2, and you got to go and take a tee off. So it could be either of this. So it's a more flexible position. You need somebody who has a lot of shots and who can obviously play the waiting game if necessary. From 5, 6, 7, more often than not, it is assessing the situation, taking on. To answer your question, even I, in many ways, would like the 1, 2, 3 to be settled. Going into this World Cup, they should have exactly known, okay, my openers are Rohit and Rahul. If one of them is injured, or if one of them obviously has an injury, then Vishan comes in. Otherwise, no Ishan. Simple. In this case, what happened? Surya Kumar went out of the team because apparently he went down to pick something and he just got a back spasm and couldn't move after that. So they had to bring in Ishan Kishan because they had no other batsmen. They had only bowlers. They had Ashwin, they had Bhuvneshwar, and I think they had Rahul Chahar. So they had nobody else to go to. So in that case, they had to bring in an Ishan Kishan. When you bring in an Ishan Kishan, I think looking at his track record, they weren't sure that he could contribute too much in the middle. They preferred him opening. And Vikram Rathore, the batting coach, has also come and said that we didn't want 3 left-handers in the middle back to back, even though I disagree a bit, because I feel that against New Zealand, having a left-arm spinner and leg spinner, if at all you could do it against a team, it had to be this team, which is fair. I think, from their point of view, they didn't want Pant, Ishan Kishan and Jadeja to walk in together, which is okay. But, sending him opening, and I would have ideally liked, in case an early wicket falls, send an Ishan Kishan. I would have still, opened with Rohit and Rahul. Alas, it didn't happen, and obviously things didn't exactly go India's way.
Yeah, and just the irony of it, Johe, was that the press conference that everyone talked about with the Pakistani journalist asking about should Ishan Kishan have been in the side because of his explosive form in the IPL, and obviously the suggestion was Rohit. Now, as it turned out, you brought Ishan Kishan in for a totally different reason.
Yeah, as I said, it's exactly right. You see, Virat's face right now. And the poor guy can't catch a break, whether it's a toss, whether, what's being said about the team. And you can see this Indian team and you say that they're really busting. It's not a lack of effort. And, people, whenever India loses, they'll say, the team was complacent. And I frankly don't see an inch of complacency in that team. They were tense because of the way the situation was set up. And when you lose by 10 wickets to Pakistan, it set up the second match in a crazy way. The importance became huge. And I think they just got under the pressure. A couple of guys got out to shots, and then the pressure just kept, climbing onto us. But it's not something that, you people sitting at home and saying that, they were complacent. They were not complacent. The cards didn't fall. Sometimes the pressure gets to you, a couple of bad shots, and the game completely changed. And of course, at some time in his life, Virat Kohli will start winning tosses, and then he won't know what to do with it. By that time, I don't know what he'll be playing, but, what do you do?
Yeah, so a slice of irony there, but again, just middle of the show, quick reminder, a 16-run victory for New Zealand. Sounds closer than it is, but pretty much the last half of the last 10 overs, they were in charge of the situation. Spirited fight by Scotland, but New Zealand getting over the line. So no favors for India from Scotland there, even though they tried really, really hard to get New Zealand over. But let's look at the Afghanistan team. We've talked all about India. We've referred to the last game in Dubai, but let's not forget Afghanistan. They've had a replacement. They've had a forced replacement, and he walked straight into the side. Sharafuddin Ashraf was the squad replacement for the retiring Asghar Afghan. He comes straight in. We were expecting Mujibur Rahman to also walk back in as and when he was fit. Apparently, he's not. So this is the lineup they have to go with, TK. I know Mujib was absolutely dominant against Scotland. India will play him far better. They've seen more of him as they've seen of Rashid. But still, they will miss an impact player like him.
Definitely, I think Mujibur Rahman bowls a very critical part of the bowling unit. It is the first power play that he bowls in. Very, very important. First pass, 6 overs. In many ways, determine how the rest of the bowling, rest of your batting goes. So, in many ways, I feel that they will miss Mujib. But what is interesting is the bowler who's come in for them, Hamid Hassan, the commentator turned obviously back to player, has done really well the last game that he's played. He's got a 4-4. He'll be full of confidence. He'll be looking forward to going there and doing whatever he can do best for Afghanistan.
Yeah, I can tell you, Joy, I spent a month and a half with him in Lucknow for the entire series, Afghanistan against West Indies. Ian Bishop was there, Alistair Campbell was there, and we were sort of easing him into commentary. And he just seemed at times when he was dressed in that very natty suit of his that playing days were far away. But every time he stepped down, he'd do a pitch report and he'd be like, he took off his jacket one day and he said, "No, that's where I belong. That's where I belong. I'd love to do commentary in another few years, but I want to get back on the field," and it showed.
Not only that, again, these are what makes sports so special. Somebody who's in the commentary box, out, just in the squad there, sitting there. You think you're just making up the numbers. Mujib is going to play always ahead of you. Suddenly you get a chance, you come in, you take wickets, you get a fantastic economy rate. That's what makes sports so very special. It's the fairy tales that you get out of here. And Hamid Hassan is as big as fairy tale as you can. I mean, I remember you telling me about Rashid's life, and his life is also all those nephews of him waiting for him to order pizzas, and the way he's come up. That's also a fairy tale, but that is also what makes this Afghan team very special. And I think they're not now playing not just as a cricket match; they're playing for their identity. They're playing for something which is beyond. There's the whole world is looking at Afghanistan right now and what's happening out there, and I think they're playing to just establish that as a cricket team, they're a free cricket team. They play great cricket, and they are the ambassadors to the for the world for Afghanistan.
Yeah, we don't often talk about the off-field part of it because they often lead nomadic lives, DK, spending a lot of time in India, be it in Noida, in Dehradun, in Lucknow, and of course a lot of time in the Gulf as well. So for them to be able to hark back to their nation and do it for their nation means just so much more than it would be for many other countries.
For a lot of us, obviously, it's just a sport, and we look at it that way. For them, it is a lot more than that. I think Joy nailed it when he said it's an identity for themselves. I mean, imagine Rashid Khan 5 years ago. Not many people knew about him. Today, he's a champion in their part of the world, and he's just a torchbearer in many ways to what the youth of Afghanistan want to be, and that's what you want. You want inspirations, you want heroes to come out of your cricketing nation, and they are producing. By the minute, Afghanistan seems to produce new cricketers who are obviously challenging the other youngsters in their country, irrespective of the regime, to come out and showcase their skills and go on to achieve great things. And Afghanistan, if ever there was a fairy tale in cricket, and Afghanistan has probably scripted the biggest one over a period of time. I think they're a fabulous team. They're such a talented team, and it's just so good to watch them play the way they play with pride. They started as a team with less skill set, but today they are constantly competing against any test playing nation in the world, and I enjoy that about them. They have a fire in them, fire in their belly, and for me, Rashid Khan is a very, very special cricketer.
And as you said, Joy, we'll wait and see whether he actually does sneak in maybe one over in the power play because we've got a situation where he'll probably have Nabi up front. They will not have the formula of Mujib bowling in the power play. So for India, 8 overs of spin versus 12 overs of spin. And that will make a difference to India's batting approach.
I think it will. And obviously, anyone with the quality of Mujib being out of the attack, see what happens up front is that India, while the fast bowlers might do okay, I don't think Karim Jannat and Co are going to give any Navinul Haq are going to give any sleepless nights to India. I mean, they're not that quality that you normally see. They're not a Harry Strauf or a Shaheen Afridi. So all I'm saying is that the India will play more cautiously. Even a Nabi would they be just not if not circumspect, they'll be watchful, and I think they'll really try and attack the rest. And here, have a look at this, and you realize what we are talking about. 5.5 against spin and 4. Of course, these numbers are anyway skewed because anyway the totals were very low. But even given the totals India scored, I mean, India reached 150 against Pakistan. 5.5 against spin tells you a story out there. It tells you that those middle overs or somewhere there they were choking us out.
Yeah, I mean that's not something you normally see from an Indian outfit. I mean, we normally have you're talking about India playing against spin versus pace. They're comfortable against it. We won't really worry about any of the opposition.
Absolutely. I think India have been phenomenal over a period of time, especially in terms of playing spin. But what's beautiful to notice is how well these bowlers have bowled against him. Shadab Khan, Mohammad Hafiz for Pakistan, and you have obviously for New Zealand, you have Santner, you have Ish Sodhi. So it's not that easy in these wickets to play spin. And that's one of the reasons why India have obviously struggled is because of the variations in the wicket more than the variations the bowlers have. So over a period of time, we have to realize that sometimes in UAE you have to bite the bullet, take your time, and then move forward. What I've also realized is when you're playing in UAE, it's important to use your feet because if you stay in the crease a lot of times because of the lack of bounce and sometimes the variables in terms of the bounce make it that much harder for anything to happen. So I would rather have Indians use their feet, play along with the spin as much as possible rather than stay in the crease and try and maneuver because sometimes what's happening is when you stay in the crease the wicket is playing so funnily at times because of the cluster of grass in various parts of the wicket that sometimes it's scooting, sometimes it's bouncing a little extra. So they're not able to play through the line that we are used to in India. That's why the progression of low scores starting from the IPL, it's been that way for some time. Only in a few grounds, on a few pitches in certain parts of the ground, have there been some high scoring encounters, I feel.
Gautam, you're
Yes,
still muted,
have
obviously.
no. No, I've found my voice again. I've found my voice again. It was one of those hazards of being in a part of the world where you never know who's going to give a call. So I had to quickly rush off to take everything off the hook and make sure I was on DND. And Abu Dhabi can be a very busy part of the world. But let's get back to where the match is happening just down the road. It's very, very busy at the stadium. They're expecting a huge crowd in there. And I think, Joy, once again, you're looking at a situation where India will start realizing that they're doing a lot for their fans. And maybe, is there a bit of pressure release when you've lost the toss saying that we didn't have to decide what to do? Now we just need to do it better?
Yeah, look, I think pressure is anyway released because when you think about it, it's exactly like you think about what's the worst that can happen. What's the worst that can happen? You lose to New Zealand, you lose to this. You've lost to New Zealand. That's happened. So it's sort of drained to a certain extent. I think everyone thinks they're knocked out. I mean, 90% of Indian fans think they're knocked out. So that by itself is in many ways it'll be liberating for them, and they'll say, okay, fine, we are knocked out. Let's go and play some serious cricket. Let's show them why we're one of the champion sides of the world. So I think in any case it's opened up a bit. And I think India will look at that and said, we can't be sitting below Namibia in this tournament. I mean, that's not us. That's not India. So I think all that will happen. And they will play with less of a monkey on their shoulder than they did against New Zealand because just of what had happened with Pakistan. But I just hope those translate to results in the field because, as DK said, this is not a great surface to bat on. And again, all you need to derail anything is one ball hitting the wrong spot and jumping up, one shot just miss it, or what happened with India last time. I mean, you look at Ishan Kishan, he could have chosen the 20 yards this side, 20 yards that side, he could have hit the ball. He went straight and hit the fielder. It happened to Rohit the other way as well. And the moment those two happened, then everything, the pressure started building on India.
Yeah, we talked a bit about the dimensions of the ground being one of the reasons. DK Michael Vaughan talked about it, that how maybe at times you talk about the form of the Indian batters, but if in the IPL, in Bangalore, in Mumbai, you're getting used to hitting a few sixes and looking really good, even 15 yards extra make a huge difference when you come to a bigger playing surface.
Accepted to a point, and I'll say that because IPL sometimes the wickets are very flat, and the fact that it is slightly smaller ground sometimes helps. Sometimes it doesn't matter. If you have the same kind of wickets that we have in IPL and UAE, irrespective of the size, we'll still be hitting boundaries. Here we have to understand one thing: as much as we keep going pretty hard at the Indian team, every team, take the likes of England, Pakistan, anybody who's lost the toss and batted first, they have struggled. There is no team which is, yes, Pakistan beat Namibia batting first. Yes, Sri Lanka beat South Africa, England beat Sri Lanka the other day. But these are not two evenly matched teams. Obviously, one is slightly ahead of the other, and you can see the difference. Whereas when two evenly matched teams have played against each other, the toss has been a massive criterion over most of the matches that's been played in UAE. The team that's batting first have struggled consistently. Take any team, South Africa, England, Australia. Australia got bowled, West Indies got bowled out for 55, Australia got bowled out for 84. Sri Lanka got bowled out for a lesser score, paltry score. So my point here is all teams are struggling to win the toss. I mean, it's rather bat first. So, in many ways, I think we can keep going on about India and how bad they've played and all of that. But I genuinely believe it's not just Indian team that is struggling. I can understand if the rest of the teams playing around in the competition are scoring 180, 185, and India are getting all out for 120, 130. Obviously there is so much pressure on India. On top of that, the wickets have not been great. So I can completely understand. And most importantly, I do think genuinely the Indian players are mentally fatigued now. In many ways, I think they'll be counting down the days. As much as I would not like to admit, I do think that because it's been a long, long, long trip for them.
But I'll stay with you for a moment, DK. In the light of what you just said, what would you advocate as a power play approach? Because what we've seen from teams who have struggled, 10 overs, 45, 46, 47, but teams like England have put it right in the next 10 overs. New Zealand today put it right in the next 10 overs. So can India approach that in a similar way, saying, if we are 50-55 in the first 10, let's not panic. Let's have wickets in hand for the last 10.
I'll answer this question in two ways, GB, with 2 points rather. The first point being, they will approach the power play, they'll approach this match very similar to what they would approach in other games. They will assess the wicket for the first couple of overs. If they feel they can play some shots, they will definitely go ahead and keep trying to play shots. But I'll tell you what is the difference. When they do get out, I think they'll be pretty numb to that. It wouldn't be somewhere where they, fight with themselves, or they're upset with themselves, or they'll go back and be like, no, I need to practice this. Oh, I can't play this ball. What the hell am I doing? Those kind of conversations that happen internally will stop. I think they have reached a stage where they're a little numb. They know, in many ways the writing is on the wall, and they have fought mentally for about 6 months on the road. That's about 180 days of constant fighting with themselves, for all the obviously fallacies and problems they've had over a period of time. So I think they'll stop fighting that battle within them, saying, what am I doing? Why did I play that shot? Those, at least majority of the players who've been on the road for a long time, won't fight those battles. They'll try and prepare the best, do whatever they can, but the moment they get out and they know it's done, they'll just come back and sit quiet, watch the match, clap for the rest of the guys, and hope somebody does something special. I've been through that. Sometimes your body goes through, you mentally become numb to an extent to what is happening in terms of result.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment, Joy. I think you cannot get a better assessment than from someone who's been there, sitting in the dugout, and sometimes feeling the pain of an up and down of what can be a long season. In this case, multiple long seasons, Joy.
Multiple long seasons, and not just long seasons. There's one thing about being on the road. There's another thing of being in a bubble. And much as you say that a lot of family and friends are around, it's not just those 4 people that make up your life. It's about you going out for a meal. It's about you going to meet friends, and those things they start telling on you. I mean, I've seen Australian tours where India started losing, and then literally players are saying 45 days to get home, 20 days to get home, 15 days we'll be on the flight. And I completely understand what DK is saying. These guys have just gone through so much in these last 6 months, with their franchises, with the national team. And they've done so much that just give them that break, let them play freely, let them just finish it off and come to whatever that it is.
But for now, let's just put a little bit of pressure on ourselves. Let's leave the players out there to play freely, to express themselves, score the runs, and we'll put pressure on ourselves by trying to get a predicted possible total in 20 overs. I'm going to go first for a change and just throw out a number that's neither monumental nor is it within Afghanistan's reach. I'm going to go for 161. 161 is what I'm saying for India batting first, which hopefully should be pretty decent for them to compete. DK?
165.
Okay, just a little higher, 165. Joy, even higher than that?
Yeah, I'm going to go higher than that. I'm going to go 173 and see where it goes.
All right, there you go. So we're looking at a fairly decent total. It's not going to be the easiest surface as we've seen from yesterday, unless there's a bit of change to it. But all we know is it should be a cracking contest ahead. We will come back halfway through India's batting effort and see where they stand. Remember, India have lost the toss and they've been asked to bat first, unexpectedly asked to bat first. Let's see what they make of it. That's all for now on Cricbuzz Live.